Why Machiavelli believed ruthless confidence beats everything. Let's start with a question that might sting a little. But have you ever lost an opportunity not because you weren't good enough, but because you hesitated? Because you doubted? Because you played it safe, waited too long, or tried to be too nice? Most of us have. And if Niccolo Machiavelli were sitting across from you right now, he wouldn't comfort you, he'd call you out. He'd tell you that in this world, fortune sides with the bold. Not the kind, not the clever, not even the righteous, the bold. And more than boldness, he'd say there's one quality that separates those who rise from those who are forgotten: ruthless confidence. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't confidence just a mindset? But isn't ruthlessness dangerous? Doesn't this sound like some cold, cutthroat philosophy that leads to manipulation, tyranny, or heartlessness? But that's where most people misunderstand Machiavelli. They reduce him to a caricature of villainy, associating his name with deception and cruelty. But if you read The Prince not as a manual for tyranny, but as a mirror held up to the brutal truth of human nature and power, a different image emerges. He wasn't advocating evil, he was telling us how the game of life is actually played when the masks come off and the stakes are real.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Machiavelli lived in a time of chaos. Italy wasn't a unified country, but a fragmented battleground of city-states, each ruled by princes, popes, mercenaries, and opportunists. Alliances shifted like sand, loyalty was a currency, and power was survival. In that world, hesitation meant death. And Machiavelli saw something that most people still deny today, that the world does not always reward virtue. In fact, sometimes it punishes it. He wrote, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything is bound to come to ruin among so many who are not good." That line alone should make you stop and think. Because it's not cynical, it's brutally realistic. He's not saying don't be good. He's saying don't be naive. If you want to make a difference, if you want to shape your destiny, you must first understand the terrain of the world, and it is not always kind. So what does this have to do with ruthless confidence? Everything. Machiavelli believed that fortune, the unpredictable, chaotic force that shapes our lives like a storm, favors the person who acts decisively, unapologetically, and with conviction. He compared fortune to a woman. It is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by force. Now, obviously, we must reframe that metaphor for modern audiences, but the essence remains: fortune bends to the one who imposes will upon the world, not the one who waits for permission. That is the core of ruthless confidence. Not arrogance, not cruelty, but the unshakable belief that you have the right to act. That waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect approval is often just fear wearing a mask. Think about your own life. How many times have you had a vision, an idea, a dream, a goal, but second-guessed yourself into paralysis? How many times have you let others define what's realistic for you? There's a Machiavellian truth hidden in plain sight. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they never truly commit. They tiptoe around life, worried about being too much, too fast, too aggressive, too confident. And in doing so, they surrender their agency. They become spectators in a game meant to be played. Machiavelli didn't romanticize power, he dissected it. Like a scientist pulling apart a living organism, he examined how leaders rose and fell. And the pattern he found was clear. Those who succeeded weren't the most moral, they were the most effective. They had clarity. They took decisive action. They didn't wait for everyone to like them. They didn't try to be perfect. They acted swiftly, even ruthlessly, when the moment called for it. Ruthless confidence, in this context, is not about harming others, it's about refusing to betray your own potential. And here's something profound. Machiavelli didn't see ruthless confidence as a trait you're born with. He saw it as a choice, a cultivated mindset, a willingness to see the world for what it is and then move anyway. That means it's available to you. Yes, you, the one watching this, may be doubting yourself right now, maybe playing small in some area of your life. You don't need to become cold or manipulative, but you do need to stop apologizing for wanting more. You do need to stop waiting for someone to give you permission to take up space, to speak your truth, to claim your path. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. When was the last time you acted with total confidence, not because you were guaranteed success, but because you refused to let fear make the decision for you? That's the Machiavellian ideal, not the villain, but the strategist. The one who understands that life is not a dress rehearsal, and that playing small is not humility, it's self-betrayal. The world doesn't need more passive idealists. It needs people who are willing to act with boldness, grounded in wisdom, and yes, sometimes even a little ruthlessness, not to dominate others, but to refuse being dominated by doubt. Because in the end, Machiavelli didn't worship power. He respected clarity. He respected action. And above all, he respected those rare individuals who had the courage to move, even when the path wasn't clear. The lion and the fox. Why Machiavelli thought duality is the ultimate superpower. Let's go deeper. If ruthless confidence is the engine, what's the strategy that keeps it from becoming reckless self-destruction? Machiavelli gives us the answer with one of his most iconic metaphors. The prince must learn to be both lion and fox. Not either, not sometimes one, sometimes the other, but both, always, simultaneously. The lion represents strength, dominance, fearlessness. The fox, on the other hand, is subtle, clever, and aware of traps. Machiavelli's brilliance lies in realizing that these two archetypes are not opposites, they are complements. One without the other is weak. Strength without cunning is predictable. Cunning without strength is impotent. But when combined, they form an unstoppable force, the confident strategist. Now pause and reflect. Which one do you lean toward? Are you more of the lion, direct, assertive, perhaps even confrontational? Or are you the fox, calculating, observant, always assessing the room? The problem is, most of us are conditioned to identify with only one. Society likes to simplify us, to label us. But Machiavelli's insight was that identity itself can be a trap. If you cling too tightly to being one thing, you become vulnerable. The world shifts. Contexts change. New threats emerge. And if you can't adapt, if you can't pivot between lion and fox, you lose. This is where Machiavellian duality becomes a kind of philosophical superpower. It's more than strategy, it's a vision of human potential that's fluid, complex, and dynamic. It says, You don't have to be trapped in a single mode of being. You can be terrifyingly strong and disarmingly wise. You can be bold in your moves and subtle in your methods. You can command a room and read it like a chessboard. Confidence becomes dangerous when it's rigid. But when it's flexible, when it's aware, it becomes something else entirely: mastery. And mastery, for Machiavelli, was not perfection. It was effectiveness. It was the ability to navigate the chaos of the world with precision. He wasn't interested in ideals for their own sake. He cared about what worked. And what works, especially in a world filled with ambition, betrayal, unpredictability, and competition, is the ability to switch gears without losing purpose. That's what duality gives you. Let's look at the fox. The fox doesn't confront the trap, it sees it. It avoids it. It anticipates motives, reads between the lines, calculates the hidden costs of every move. This isn't cowardice, it's intelligence. It's survival. And in your life, how often do you rush in like a lion without first seeing the trap? How often do you react instead of read? How often do you let your strength blind you to your vulnerability? Now consider the lion. The lion doesn't hide. The lion doesn't negotiate endlessly or beg for permission. It acts. It commands. It takes up space. And how often do we play the fox so much that we forget to move? We overthink, overplan, overanalyze, and in the end, we're still stuck. That's the fox's danger, paralysis by insight. But the lion charges, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. So Machiavelli's genius was in telling us that neither alone is enough. The lion without the fox gets caught. The fox without the lion gets ignored. But together, they form a new kind of being. One who knows when to strike and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen, when to intimidate and when to charm. One who isn't afraid to be feared or to be underestimated. This isn't just political advice. It's existential, because life at its core is a battlefield of shifting power dynamics in your career, your relationships, your self-concept. To thrive, you must stop choosing sides within yourself. You must integrate. That's what duality is, integration. It's the refusal to be divided against yourself. It's ruthless confidence, yes, but guided by deep awareness. So here's the question: what part of yourself have you been neglecting? Have you been too much the lion charging ahead, ignoring nuance? Or too much the fox hiding in strategy, afraid to act? What would your life look like if you became both? The theater of power, how perception, not truth, controls the world. If Machiavelli taught us anything beyond strategy, it's this: but power is never just about what is, it's about what appears to be. The world doesn't run on truth. It runs on the performance of truth. And if you don't understand that, you'll lose to people who do. This is the part that makes people uncomfortable. We want to believe that the truth will prevail, that authenticity is always rewarded, that merit rises to the top. But Machiavelli, with unflinching clarity, pulled the curtain back and showed us the real machinery behind influence, leadership, and dominance. And what he revealed was this: perception is the currency of power. Look around. In politics, business, social media, even in your relationships, how often does the person with the best ideas win? Rarely. It's usually the one who seems most confident, and the one who appears competent, the one who knows how to control the narrative, even if the substance is weak. It's not what's real that moves people, it's what they believe is real. That's the theater of power. And if you're not directing your act, you're just an extra in someone else's play. Machiavelli understood that leaders must master this performance. He said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." That line is a razor blade cutting through centuries of idealism. You could be kind, capable, visionary, but if you fail to appear strong, if you fail to project certainty, you will be dismissed, replaced, or devoured. The world judges by surfaces. That's not cynicism. That's survival. So what does this mean for us? It means that cultivating ruthless confidence isn't just internal, it must be visible. You may feel confident, but if you don't embody it, the world won't register it. If your body language whispers insecurity while your mind screams potential, people will believe the whisper. This is why perception matters, not because it's fake, but because it's the only access point others have to your reality. They cannot see your intentions. They can only see your actions, your posture, your voice, your presence. And if those things don't align with power, you become invisible. But here's the twist. The theater of power doesn't mean you have to lie. It means you must own your image. You must design how you are seen with the same intentionality that a director designs a film. Because the world is not a meritocracy, it's a stage. And every room you enter is an audience waiting to be convinced. That's not manipulation, that's communication. And Machiavelli would argue, if you refuse to play that game, you've already lost. Think of the people you admire, the ones who seem magnetic, unshakable, larger than life. Are they just lucky, or have they mastered the art of projecting certainty? They walk into a room and the room bends around them. Why? Because they've learned to control perception. They've learned that truth, while sacred, is often silent. But perception shouts. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about becoming fake. It's about becoming intentional. It's about making the conscious choice to align how you are seen with who you truly are and who you are becoming. That's authenticity with strategy. And that's what Machiavelli respected, not blind honesty, but effective honesty. Honesty that lands. Honesty that influences. Honesty that doesn't just sit quietly in your soul, but reaches out and shapes the world. So ask yourself, what role are you playing right now in your life? Are you the lead? The antagonist? The background character? And more importantly, who cast you in that role? Because if you don't direct the story, someone else will. Someone who understands the stage, the lighting, the timing, someone who knows that in the theater of power, the truth is optional, but perception is everything. The final move, why fortune bows to those who seize it. At the heart of Machiavelli's philosophy lies one final, commanding idea, perhaps his most dangerous and liberating of all. Fortune favors the one who doesn't wait, the one who seizes. The one who acts not when conditions are perfect, but when the moment is simply there. In a world that often teaches us to be cautious, to be humble, to wait our turn, Machiavelli dares to say the opposite. He writes that fortune is like a woman, unstable, unpredictable, wild, and she yields, not to hesitation, but to aggression. to force, to action. Of course, the metaphor is dated, and today we must approach it with care. But beneath the metaphor lies an eternal truth. Life rewards those who wrestle with it, not those who tiptoe through it, not those who wait for signs or guarantees, but those who, in the face of uncertainty, move anyway. Those who understand that waiting is often just fear with good PR. Let's be honest. How many times have you told yourself, "I'm not ready yet"? How many times have you said, "Maybe next year," or "once I have more experience," or "after I fix this one thing"? But here's the Machiavellian truth: you will never be ready. The perfect moment will never come. And the longer you wait, the more power you give to the chaos of life. Fortune doesn't reward the cautious, it devours them. It rewards the one who steps forward, even trembling, and says, "I'll take the risk. I'll make the move. I'll shape this moment into something real." That's not recklessness. That's courage. And courage, real courage, is never about the absence of fear. It's about the refusal to be governed by it. It's the decision to act while afraid, to speak when silence feels safer, to leap when the ground isn't fully visible. Machiavelli admired the kind of leader who didn't wait for fate to hand them a crown, they forged their own. They didn't ask, "Am I allowed?" They asked, "How do I make this happen?" This applies to all of us. You don't have to be a prince or a politician. You just have to be someone who refuses to let your story be written by fear. Whether it's starting a business, ending a toxic relationship, pursuing a dream, or simply standing up for yourself in a world that wants you to stay small, fortune bows to those who make the move, not to those who hope, not to those who wait, but to those who move. And here's the final twist. When you begin to act like someone who deserves fortune, fortune begins to respond. The world bends around decisive energy. People follow clarity. Doors open for those who knock with conviction. But none of this happens unless you decide internally, fiercely, unapologetically, that you will no longer be a bystander in your own life. So let me leave you with a question that Machiavelli himself might have asked if he were alive today and knew your potential. If you knew fortune was watching you right now, watching to see if you're worthy, what would you do differently today? Would you stop rehearsing and start living? Would you stop asking for permission and start building? Would you stop shrinking and start expanding into the person you were meant to become? Because in the end, this is the Machiavellian paradox. You don't win by being ruthless to others. You win by refusing to be timid with yourself. But ruthless confidence isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the unwavering belief that you are not here to be invisible. You are here to move mountains, to bend fortune, to take your place in the world, not by waiting for it to be given, but by seizing it. So go, make the move, shape the moment, stop waiting. Because fortune isn't kind, but it is watching, and it bows only to those who dare to take the final step.